Good evening. My name is Aslam Kakar, and in today's video, I wanted to talk about some thing that I think a lot of people are thinking about, especially those who work on or in the area of global affairs, international relations, interstate relations, and the whole patchwork of global governance. I came across this interesting term that Amitav Acharya, a professor at a university in the US, I think International School of Service at Washington University, or in DC, he uses the term the world minus one to describe the Trump administration's very strong um, disinterest, but also opposition to global cooperation and the withdrawal, unilateral withdrawal from all kinds of multilateral agreements and cooperation mechanisms and summits, and such as the Paris Agreement and so much more. So there is this increasing um, fear or concern of the US actually withdrawing from all sorts of agreements that involve interstate cooperation for economic, political, peacekeeping, and conflict resolution, and so on. Um, and Amitav calls this not a multipolar world, but in fact the world minus one. And but he also shows something interesting, which is that as in the past, the cooperation between states and the world community will continue, even if the US is not on the table, although US being on the table has, of course, been quite instrumental and consequential, but also harmful in so many different ways. And just to quote a couple of lines from his essay or article in the Foreign Policy magazine. In fact, the title of on the cover, the title is "The World Minus One," which shows, that we're not leading into a multipolar world, but in fact, the world or the U.S. against the world, to put it probably in some some not very cautious terms. But so he says, Amitav, to reiterate his point that the world is going to be fine. If anything, the U.S. might later on try to rejoin the global order for cooperation, or the rule-based international order. Historically, he says decolonization and racial equality became global norms, not with the United States' indispensable support, but rather in the face of Washington's initial resistance. So that there is that. And then he says, even as Trump cements the United States' reputation as the world's absentee or defector in chief, international cooperation has survived. That is another interesting line. And then lastly, he says, put simply, there is no return to US geopolitical dominance or liberal hegemony 2.0. So these are interesting claims, and I think what I found interesting was the the not the classification, but the the term to describe, you know, the kind of world in which we live, from um, um, bipolar to, for the most part, in the second half of the 20th century, to unipolar, and then to this whole, of course, competition, economic, political, and another areas for global dominance. We're not, that's the argument, we're not going into a multipolar world, but into a world where the world will be on the one side and the US on another side, mostly absent, or, as he says, the factor in chief. I am not entirely sure what that portends for world peace, for security, and for human rights, and so much more. Um, but I think it also shows that, of course, that opposition to the US is something that could, in the long run, um, you know, dissuade it from um, going on a very solo flight. And yeah, just wanted to share this thought. We'll see you again. Thank you.